Welcome to The Debate. So, at 4:10 a.m. on June 27th, 1995, 27-year-old news anchor Jody Huisentruit told a producer she was rushing into work.
Right, she had actually overslept that morning.
Exactly. But by 4:30 a.m., all that was left of her in that Mason City, Iowa parking lot was a bent car key, a scattered pair of red heels, and drag marks near her red Mazda Miata.
It's an incredibly haunting scene. And, 31 years later, the debate over what happened in that 20-minute window remains, deeply polarized.
Right, so our central debate question today is this. Does the evidence in the Huisentruit case point more strongly toward a targeted abduction by someone in her inner circle or a crime of opportunity by a violent predator?
And just to lay out our positions here, I'll represent the perspective that the physical evidence left at the scene, coupled with that chaotic timeline, strongly points to an opportunistic strike by a predator or a stalker.
And I will be taking the view that the evidence heavily favors an inner circle targeted abduction. Someone motivated by personal dynamics or jealousy.
Okay, so let's dive into it.
Yeah, let's start with the specifics of the crime. Jody had a highly unusual schedule. She normally left her apartment between 3:30 and 4 a.m. for her morning broadcast at KMIT.
Right, it's pitch black out at that hour.
Exactly. To successfully ambush someone in the dark at that specific time, you really need intimate knowledge of their routine. That points to someone close to her. Take John Van Cise, for example.
He was the older friend, right?
Yeah, a friend 20 years her senior. And he was the last person to see her alive after she watched a birthday video at his home the night before. His focus on her was intense. He even named a boat after her. Plus, we have recent 2026 revelations from private investigator Steve Ridge.
Oh, right. About the dating life?
Yes, regarding Jody having a new boyfriend of just 10 days. That kind of sudden shift is exactly what can spark jealousy in an inner circle. And Ridge also brought forward an explosive tip about a suspect confessing to a partner during a roadside meltdown while being tailed by Minnesota authorities.
Well, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. The chaotic nature of the crime scene just doesn't fit the profile of a friend. Neighbors heard screams between 4 and 5 a.m.
But crimes of passion are chaotic.
Sure, but her personal items were violently scattered. There was an unidentified palm print on a pole and, sightings of an idling white Ford Econoline van. This fits the behavioral profile of a blitz attack by a predator. And think about Tony Jackson.
The convicted serial rapist.
Right. He lived just 2 blocks from the KMT station. And here is a chilling detail. His girlfriend, who bore a striking resemblance to Jody, had literally just broken up with him the week prior.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. When you look at the timeline of the attack, the fact that Jody unexpectedly overslept completely changes things.
You mean because she deviated from her routine?
Exactly. She was rushing to her car around 4:10 or 4:15. A random stalker doing a roll of the dice in a dark parking lot doesn't just wait around for an hour past her normal departure time in the hope she might eventually emerge.
Well, an insider, though. Someone who either knew her routine intimately or was directly communicating with her, that's a calculated insider ambush.
Okay, but a stalker operates observationally. Think of it like a timing attack in cybersecurity.
A timing attack?
Yeah, a hacker doesn't need to know your actual password to breach a system, they just watch when the server responds. Similarly, a predator watching her apartment building doesn't need to be in her inner circle to know when she leaves. They just wait for the lights to turn on.
Maybe, but...
And consider the sheer violence of the struggle. The drag marks, the bent key. When you bend a metal car key during a struggle that requires immense, immediate force right at the lock, that isn't a conversation with a spurned friend that escalated. That aligns with stranger-on-stranger predatory violence. But explosive physical violence doesn't preclude a personal connection. But okay, let's look at the suspects. You brought up Tony Jackson, but police explicitly ruled him out as a suspect years ago.
They haven't released his alibi, though.
True, but they clearly have exculpatory evidence. On the flip side, look at how law enforcement has treated Van Cise over the years. They convened 2 separate federal grand juries.
Right, but he died in 2024 maintaining his innocence.
He did. But in 2017, police obtained search warrants to place GPS trackers on his vehicles. An agency doesn't expend that kind of institutional capital over decades without strong circumstantial suspicion.
Actually, that 2017 GPS tracker tactic reveals exactly the opposite. A recent Hulu documentary uncovered that police admitted those trackers were really just a strategy to spook him.
A wiretap shakeup, basically?
Exactly. It's a classic tactic where you let a suspect know you're onto them, hoping they panic and drive to a burial site, but it completely failed. He didn't leave them anywhere.
Well, they had to try something.
Right. But if the police's best tactic on the inner circle theory yields nothing, aren't we ignoring the glaring reality of a convicted serial rapist down the street? I mean, a cellmate even claimed Jackson wrote a rap rhyme specifically about Jody.
Which led cadaver dogs to search a silo in Tiffin, Iowa.
Yes, exactly.
But that search yielded absolutely nothing connecting Jackson to Jody, which is why we have to look at the most recent developments. PI Steve Ridge brought forward a witness who claims her partner, a suspect in the case, had a complete meltdown while being tailed by authorities.
The roadside confession.
Right. The suspect slammed his hands on the steering wheel, repeatedly saying, "I didn't do it," before finally breaking down and screaming, "I did it." And this directly correlates with recent police activity, like the November 2025 canine search of demolished residence in Winstead, Minnesota. They are actively homing in on a specific individual.
I know a lot of people hearing that are thinking, why are we just hearing about a hearsay tip 30 years later? And we have to look at the mechanism behind it. Ridge recently doubled the reward in this case to $100,000.
You're suggesting the money fabricated the tip?
When you introduce financial incentives of that magnitude, you can trigger what psychologists call memory conformity or source amnesia.
So the reward literally altered the witness's memory.
It happens all the time in cold cases. The brain retrofits innocent past events, like a partner having an unrelated stressful breakdown in the car, into suspicious, case-cracking confessions to fit the narrative of the reward. Plus, the Iowa DCI and Mason City Police have yet to make an arrest based on this confession.
I understand the skepticism around a 30-year-old memory, but you can't entirely discount the behavioral weight of a spontaneous confession. When you combine the intimate knowledge of Jody's schedule, the new revelations about her dating life, and this specific confession tip, it provides the most cohesive explanation for her disappearance. It explains the why, not just the how.
But the how is what is carved into the physical evidence. The scattered shoes, the bent key, the screams in the dark. That is the physical signature of an opportunistic predator. Law enforcement has spent 31 years trying to crack the inner circle theories and failed. Sometimes the most terrifying answer is the correct one, a random intersection of a predator and a vulnerable person in the dark.
Well, the tragedy of Jody Heisentrut's disappearance and the continued pain of her family really remains at the forefront of all these theories.
Absolutely.
Whether this was a deep, intimate betrayal or a random, violent tragedy, the fact that there are still active searches, like the one in Winstead, and new tips coming in proves that this investigation is far from stagnant.
It really is, and there are so many more layers to this complex case in the source material. It's a stark reminder of how quickly a life can be altered.
The parking lot at Kim Tid didn't capture a ghost that morning. It captured a very real person who left behind a distinct set of physical and psychological footprints. We encourage you to explore the material further and form your own conclusions on where those footprints lead. Thanks for joining us on The Debate.